I'm Cesar Delgado from Back Roads of Illinois podcast. Welcome to the show with us. I am joining with John Hurd from U.S. Meat Federation in South Bend, Indiana, their office in Denver, Colorado. Could you tell to our listeners?
Well, yeah, the U.S. Meat Export Federation, basically our job, our duty is to put U.S. beef, pork, and lamb on tables around the world. So we're not only promoting the sales of U.S. beef, pork, and lamb in these markets. We have staff on the ground who work with exporters on access issues, getting product into the country if there's something that happens with a paperwork problem or any of those kind of issues, or just general access questions. We also work with governments, retailers, restaurants, hotels, and more, just to grow the use of U.S. beef, pork, and lamb products around the world and grow that access.
What is U.S. Meat Federation to help meat to export to another country like Mexico? Could you talk about this partnership does?
And Mexico's a great example for us, especially this year, because they've really been going gangbusters, both on the pork and beef side. Pork sales have always been pretty strong in Mexico, but through August of this year, they're up 14% on volume, 18% on value compared to last year, and on pace to set a record in 2023. Mexico is a leader this year in beef exports or beef imports. They're up 17% in volume, 25% in value over 2022. And something that's key in Mexico is that they've been building the use of underutilized cuts like the beef round, the chuck, and the pork loin. The team down there in Mexico has done a great job of working with the resorts down there, with some of the retailers, with the restaurants, and showing them how they can maintain that high quality that their customers demand while addressing some of the cost issues that they're having to face down there, as well as in some other markets, by using some of these undervalued cuts. And so they do a great job of promoting variety meats, which hold little value here in the United States. As an example, they worked with a processor making chicharrones. That processor was having trouble finding access to pork belly. So our team looked at it and said, well, hey, the pork jowl has some of the same basic construction of that product. Can you look at the pork jowl as a replacement for that? And I've tried it. It's a tremendous product. And so they do things like that to build that demand in those markets.
Don't forget about the head. It's my favorite.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe your favorite, but not a lot of favorite for a lot of people here in.
Joan, how much does take the U.S. Meat Federation to talk about the markets in today's world supply and demand for another country like hogs production?
Well, obviously, looking at that supply demand here in the U.S. plays a key role in what we do in some of those other markets. It's very important for us. And as I just said, it's key for us to build value for the entire animal so that we can build that demand. Hogs are more than just bacon and pork chops, cattle more than just ribeyes and fillets. And so we build value for things like beef tongue in Japan, livers in Egypt, and that list goes on and on and on. And so if you can build that value for the entire carcass, well, that builds demand, it builds value, and then uh, that demand just continues to build on itself and be even stronger. The supply side of that equation is where we're seeing some challenges right now on the beef side of things. As you know, we've had some contraction in the beef herd, and that's tightening the world's supply of beef and raising prices in some places, and that's causing some of that price pressure that I alluded to earlier. But we can use exports to build that entire carcass value. And one of the things that does is, if you can build value in the entire carcass, that builds those financial incentives to help rebuild the herd and make more product available. for the rest of this year and going into 2024. Demand for the quality and consistency of that U.S. product is strong globally. On the beef side, exports contribute about $400 to the value of each fed head slaughtered. On the hogs, it's about just under $60 a head. Pork exports have continued to be pretty strong in 2023, and it's in a year when we need strong pork exports because of some of the weakness elsewhere in the market. On the beef side, we're coming off a record year in sales. Last year was about $11.7 billion in U.S. beef exports, blew away the record of just over $10 billion the year before. So we're comparing against a really significant year. And we aren't going to see those kind of numbers again in 2023, but we're still going to see strong numbers. China has backed off some from their record purchases in 2022. Japan, they've always been a leading market. On the beef side, they're down in 2023. That market in particular, they've been slow in recovering from COVID. It was well into this year before they really started to open back up. The retail food service sector still isn't fully back. And so there's still plenty of room to grow in Japan, and we're going to see that continue to recover. The other thing that they've had is that there's been a really weak, the yen has been really, really weak against the dollar. And they're very unfamiliar with inflationary pressure, and they've been facing it this year. So it's going to take a little while for that to shake out. But again, that leaves some room for some optimism and some growth in that Japanese market, which has always been one of the top three markets for us. But overall, we expect a pretty strong 2023, and that continued into 2024. And obviously, if we can, get the supply side on the beef back up, that will help things as well. Always been one of the top three markets for us. But overall, we expect a pretty strong 2023, and that continued into 2024. And obviously, if we can, get the supply side on the beef back up, that will help things as well.
Is there anything would you like to go to be telling a rancher and cattle farmer and U.S. Meat Federation for these markets and counting for the future?
Well, the most important thing to say to farmers and ranchers is how much we appreciate their support and investing in exports and realizing the return that they're getting on those investments in exports. Obviously, a lot of our funding comes through checkoff programs. We're also very appreciative that USDA Secretary Vilsack has just announced a new program for exports called RAP. That's going to, we don't know all the details yet because they still have to go through the rulemaking process, but it's going to use some Commodity Credit Corporation funding to put into market access and promoting U.S. product in foreign markets. So that's going to be very clear, very important for us to have access to that and maintain those investments that we've seen in some of those markets, as particularly as some of the other programs that we've had in the past couple of years have been expiring. So it's going to be a key for us. But appreciate the confidence that the U.S. growers have in us and the work that our staff does all around the globe to build that demand, to build access, to work with exporters, to sell that product and build that value.
Thanks, John, for coming along with us. I've been honored to have you on the show for today.
Well, again, thanks for having me on, and it's an honor for me to be a part of what you're doing there. I really appreciate what you've been doing, and am honored to be a part of it.